The event is a charity benefit for children's literacy programs. $3,000 a plate. The Huxley Ballroom in Midtown arranged with low centerpieces and string quartet, and the specific quality of candlelight that makes everyone look slightly more expensive than they are. Sung-Ho Kwon does not look more expensive in candlelight. He looks exactly as expensive as he is, which has nothing to do with the suit and everything to do with how the room rearranges itself when he walks in. He is 30 years old. He runs the Kwon Organization, 3 port operations, 11 holding companies, influence in city contracts that appears on no publicly filed document. His father's hospitalization last week made tonight unavoidable. The Kwon family name is on the Literacy Center this benefit funds. Certain appearances are non-negotiable. Raymond Cho, his second, enters 2 steps behind and positions himself at the left edge of the room with the practiced ease of a man who has made this invisible. The room responds the way rooms always respond to Sung-Ho. Not loudly. No ripple of obvious reaction. But 10 women. He counts them without trying. The way he counts everything. 10 women adjust. 3 stiffen. 2 redirect attention to their drinks with speed that isn't casual. 1 touches her companion's arm. 1 repositions her chair 2 inches, not away from him exactly, just away from the direction he'll pass. 1 stops mid-sentence and does not recover her thought for 30 seconds. This is what fear looks like in expensive rooms. It doesn't announce itself. It rearranges everything by 2 inches. Sung-Ho has watched this happen his entire adult life. He feels no particular way about it. He moves toward the table Raymond reserved, notes the exits, assigns risk levels to strangers, accepts a glass of water from a passing tray without looking at who carries it. Then, 90 seconds later, he looks. Not because anything happened. Not because of sound or movement or a shift in the room's temperature. He looks because the woman who just passed with the tray is now on the far side of the ballroom, and she is the only person in it who is moving exactly the same way she was moving before he arrived. Her pace hasn't changed. Her attention hasn't shifted. She navigates the space between tables with a tray held flat at shoulder height, eyes tracking where she's going and nothing else. And there is something in this, in the complete and total absence of adjustment, that catches him in a way 10 items of cataloged fear hadn't. She is not performing composure. She is not choosing not to look at him. She simply hasn't factored him into her evening. The room hasn't told her to. The gravity that bends everyone else toward him or away from him has passed through her without finding anything to pull on. He watches her for 9 seconds, long enough to register the small notebook tucked into the pocket of her apron. Long enough to register that she pulls it out between one table and the next and writes something in it with the efficiency of a person recording something they don't want to forget. Not an order, not a table's request, something else entirely. Then she tucks it away and moves on. Sung-Ho sets his water glass down on the white linen. Across the room, the 10 women are slowly anodding themselves, releasing the held breath of people who have decided the weather is passing. And one woman who has not noticed any of them, who has not noticed him, writes one more line in her notebook and closes it and crosses to her next table. He picks up the glass. The string quartet shifts to something slower. The evening is only beginning, and something in Sung-Ho Kwon's chest has moved 2 inches without his permission. Her name is Mara Cole. She is 26 years old, and she has been working events like this one for 3 years, and she understands exactly what they require. Efficient invisibility, a fast read of who at each table is performing and who is actually there, and the particular patience of someone who has learned that the amount a person spends on dinner correlates inversely with how gracious they are about it. She is also aware, without having looked directly at him, that the corner table has been occupied for 40 minutes by a man whose presence has altered the room the way a structural wall alters a building. You feel it before you see it. She doesn't look. She works. At 8:45, table 12 becomes a situation. The man there has decided his beef is wrong. It isn't. Mara put the order in correctly and confirmed it with the kitchen. The issue is not the beef. The issue is 3 glasses of burgundy and the specific intersection of alcohol and the kind of entitlement that mistakes silence for agreement. Mara sets her tray at the service station. She goes back. She doesn't perform calm. She is calm, which is a different thing entirely. She tells him the chef can send out a different preparation if he'd prefer. He says that isn't the point. She says she'd like to understand what the point is. He says she can't. She tilts her head slightly and says, "Help me." He doesn't have an answer for this. The offer to be heard without argument has confused him. He locates something nastier. She hears it coming in his posture before the words arrive, and he says something low and specific that is meant to find a bruise. She picks up her notepad. She looks at him with the expression of someone who has a category for this already, who filed it 3 years ago and has simply placed his name in it now. She tells him she'll have the kitchen send something on the house. Then she turns and walks toward the service station. No rush. No looking back. No checking whether anyone witnessed her exit. She updates the ticket, makes the kitchen note, moves to her next table with the same pace she carried from the one before it. The 3 minutes are behind her. She has already closed them. At the corner table, a water glass is set down with a precision the gesture doesn't require. Sung-ho has watched all of it. He has watched from the age of 22 as people absorb difficulty in rooms like this one. Watch them bank it, hold it, leak it sideways into something or someone adjacent. He has built a particular competence at absorbing things without visible cost. But the thing he does requires effort. The thing that just happened across the ballroom looked effortless, and the difference between those two things is something he cannot immediately calculate. The notebook is out again. Between table 7 and table 9, she writes something, still not in order, and tucks it back into her apron with the same motion she uses for everything. Clean, complete, no wasted movement. He turns back to the woman across from him. Her name is Celeste. She is dressed in something gray and precise, and she is saying something that had his attention 4 minutes ago. He nods at the right moment. He is completely elsewhere. Celeste Munn is 31, and she did not agree to this dinner because she was told to. She agreed because Sung-ho Kwon is, by any reasonable assessment, a man worth agreeing to have dinner with. Intelligent, contained, carries himself without the particular performance of men who need to be recognized. She has met him 3 times in contexts adjacent to their families, and each time he was fully present. It is one of the things she found most compelling about him. What she is observing now, and she is someone who observes precisely, is that he is not present. He is here. He has said the right things at the correct intervals. He has asked about her work twice and listened to the answers with technical adequacy. But Celeste has spent 10 years navigating rooms full of people who are performing attention, and she knows the difference between listening and waiting. He is waiting, not for a gap in the conversation, for something behind her left shoulder. She doesn't turn to confirm it. She already has a sense of what's there. At 9:20, she sets down her fork. She says his name. Once. Quietly. He looks at her. Genuinely looks, for the first time in over an hour, and she holds his gaze without flinching from the careful blankness she finds in it. The blankness of a man realizing he has been somewhere else and deciding what to do with that information. She shakes her head once. Not in anger. In clarity. "You look like a man who has spent so long accumulating everything," she says, her voice low enough for only the two of them, that he's forgotten to ask himself what it's all for. He is quiet. She picks up her bag. She isn't performing hurt. She isn't punishing him with her exit. She is naming, with the clean accuracy of a woman who will not pretend she hasn't seen clearly what she has seen. "The food is genuinely excellent," she says. "I hope the rest of your evening is." She stands. She straightens the hem of her dress. Then she crosses the ballroom with the same composure she arrived with, spine exactly straight, steps even, the particular dignity of a woman who chose to be here and is choosing to leave and sees no contradiction between the two, and she doesn't look back. Sung-ho watches her go. He does not feel righteous about this. He feels the specific discomfort of someone who has done something they cannot fully justify, which is different from guilt and closer to honesty. He picks up the water glass. He finishes it. The corner table that was set for 2 is now set for 1. Raymond appears at his shoulder, Not immediately. He gives it 4 minutes and asks a question that technically doesn't require an answer. Sung-ho tells him the evening continues. Raymond returns to his position. On the far side of the ballroom, a woman with a notebook reaches the corner table to clear the second setting. She notes the empty seat, the untouched dessert plate, the arrangement of a dinner that ended early, and she lifts the plate and begins to clear the second silverware with the efficiency of someone filing information without editorializing it. Then she looks up, because clearing requires confirming the table's status with the remaining guest. She looks up, and he is already looking at her, and there are 3 feet of white linen and the entire distance between their lives between them. "The burnt honey tart," he says. "You recommended it to table 9. I'd like one." She goes completely still. She didn't know he was listening. She takes the silverware and the plate and the fact of having been heard when she didn't know anyone was hearing, and she walks back toward the kitchen carrying all of it without letting any of it reach her face. At the service station, she writes the order. Her pen does not waver. She brings the tart at 10:11, sets it down precisely, steps back. The notebook. He is not asking. She stops. It isn't for orders. She turns. He is looking at the front pocket of her apron, where the edge of the notebook shows above the seam. His expression holds nothing performative. It is the expression of a man asking a direct question because he has decided to mean it. She pulls the notebook out, opens it 2/3 of the way through, and sets it on the table in front of him. The page is dense with columns. Property addresses down the left margin. Cap rates, vacancy rates, last sale dates, assessed value versus listing price running across in her handwriting. At the bottom, circled twice in blue pen, one address on Lenox Avenue in Harlem with a notation. DP target, 24 MO current pace, 19 MO. He reads it the way he reads documents that contain real information, without performing the reading. How long have you been tracking this one? His finger moves toward the circled address, not pointing, acknowledging. 8 months. Of tracking it. Of saving for the deposit. She pauses. I've been watching the neighborhood for 2 years. He looks up from the page. She is standing across from him the way she stands at every table. Present, returned to professional, giving him nothing additional and reducing nothing she naturally carries. What do you see in it? He means the building. 40 units. Currently 40% vacant because the management company extracts rent without maintaining the property. The tenants are long-term, mostly families. The building's bones are solid. The vacancy is a management failure, not a market one. A pause. It's fixable. He says nothing. She reclaims the notebook with one clean motion and tucks it back into her apron. Picks up her tray. Enjoy the tart, she says. She means it without warmth added or removed. Just means it. And she goes to her next table. Sung-ho picks up the fork. He has spent his adult life building things he did not choose for reasons he cannot always name. He has expanded operations his father structured, managed people his father hired, inherited power that arrived already assembled. He has been competent at all of it, occasionally brilliant. He has never once experienced the specific thing that was on that page, the circled address, the saved deposit, the 19 months of patient accumulation towards something that belongs entirely to the person accumulating it. He has never built something that was just his. The tart is very good. He finishes it. Raymond arrives at 10:30. The car is ready. Sung-ho stands, buttons his jacket. He looks once at the service station, where Mara is completing her section reset with the thoroughness of someone who will not leave anything incomplete. In the car, Raymond does not speak, because 11 years have taught him which silences are not fulfilling. Sung-ho watches Manhattan go by. He thinks about a circled address and the certainty in the voice of a woman who knows exactly what she is building and why, and has been building it quietly for 22 months, while rooms full of expensive people have failed to notice. He cannot identify the last time he felt that certainty. About anything. He looks for the time before that. He cannot find it either. He doesn't go back to the restaurant. He doesn't plan what he does instead. On a Tuesday afternoon, 13 days after the benefit, 6 days after he stopped pretending he wasn't going to do this, Raymond drops him 3 blocks from Lenox Avenue and he walks. He is not following her. He tells himself this with enough precision to believe it for about a block and a half, until he turns onto the street and sees her already there. She is standing on the sidewalk across from the building with a notebook open in her left hand and a coffee in her right, looking at the structure the way people who understand buildings look at them, not at what it is now, at what it could hold. She is on her day off. She is dressed like someone spending their free time on something that matters to them. She registers him when he is 8 feet away, processes the information without performing surprise. "You're in Harlem," she says. "I was nearby." She looks at him. "You live in Tribeca." "I was nearby." Something shifts at the corner of her mouth. Not a smile exactly. Something that acknowledges the insufficiency of his answer and doesn't require a better one. She looks back at the building. After a moment, he crosses the street and stands beside her. They look at it together. 6 stories. Buff brick. Windows that need work on the middle floors. A front entrance showing 30 years of deferred maintenance. Above the 3rd floor, the bones are what they are, solid, proportioned, built in an era when buildings were meant to last. "The top floors are the best," she says. "Original fenestration. The damage is concentrated in 2 and 3. Whoever handled repairs over the last decade did them as cheaply as the tenants would tolerate." "What's the unit mix?" She glances at him, then at the notebook. 32 bedrooms, 8 one-bedrooms. Current rents 40% below comparable market, not because the neighborhood won't support it, but because long-term tenants have never been informed the market shifted and the current management has had no incentive to inform them. He asks about the boiler system. She knows. He asks about the roof. She knows that too, with the specificity of someone who spent a Saturday afternoon on it. He realizes he is having a more substantive conversation about a building's infrastructure than he has had with anyone in his organization in 4 months. "Why management?" he says. "Not acquisition for yourself, not development." She looks at the building. A bus goes by. 2 kids on bikes. A woman walking a dog with the slow pace of someone extending a good afternoon. "My father was a tenant his whole life. Good buildings, bad management. Buildings that could have been maintained and were just extracted from instead." She says it without performing the weight of it. The same register she uses for cap rates. "He died in one. I want to be the management company that picks up the phone." He doesn't fill the silence. He lets it be exactly what it is. His phone rings. She watches his face change. She watches it happen the way she watches things she is filing for later, directly, without drama. It isn't a collapse. It is a specific and very controlled closing, the same way a fist closes, traveling from his jaw to his shoulders in under 3 seconds as he turns partially away to take the call. When he turns back, she is looking at him with the unhurried attention of someone who has already arrived at something. "What did you see?" he says. "The cost," she says. Simply, the way she says everything. It's on your face every time that phone rings. She finishes her coffee, closes the notebook. "I need to get back," she says, without apology, without softening it, just meaning it. And she walks, and she doesn't rush, and she doesn't look back. He stands on the block until Raymond comes around the corner. He gets in the car. He says nothing. The city goes by. He is 30 years old, and he has just been told, by a woman saving a deposit on a building on Lenox Avenue, the single most accurate thing anyone has said to him in years. He is afraid of what the rest of the accurate things might be. The apartment in Washington Heights is exactly the size it needs to be. Kitchen with real estate textbooks on the counter. A whiteboard on the refrigerator where Mara tracks her savings targets in red marker. Updated the first of every month with the precision of someone who finds numbers more honest than most conversations. A photograph of her father on the windowsill. A man in his 60s with reading glasses pushed up on his forehead, sitting on the front stoop of a building that was not his and would never be his, and that he stayed in anyway for 23 years because it was what he could afford and nobody taught him there was anything to negotiate. Jade is on the couch with her laptop when Mara comes home on Tuesday evening, wearing the expression she gets when she has decided to say the thing Mara doesn't want to hear. Mara sets her bag down, gets water, leans against the counter. He was in Harlem today. Jade closes the laptop. The Lenox building. He just appeared. On the sidewalk. Looking at it. Looking at the building, or looking at you looking at the building? Mara drinks her water. We talk for 45 minutes about boiler systems and unit mix. Mara. He knew what to ask. He wasn't performing interest. He asked about the boiler system of a building in Harlem on a Tuesday afternoon. And then his phone rang, Jade says. Mara sets down the glass. How did you know that? Because something always rings. What did his face do? Mara is quiet. That bad? Jade says. Not bad. Just real. She pauses. I told him I could see the cost on his face. He didn't deny it. Jade pulls her knees up. She's quiet for a moment that has weight to it. Then, what are you afraid of? This is the question Jade asks when she has already arrived at her own answer and wants to know if Mara's is the same. Mara looks at the whiteboard. Month 19, 2 months ahead of schedule. The number updated in red at the beginning of the month. I'm afraid he's been performing everything his whole life, she says. The power, the way rooms rearrange around him, the controlled face when the phone rings. All of it built and maintained and held together. And I think somewhere inside all that he lost the person doing the assembling. And I think I might be the first person in a long time who has looked at him without the room's permission. Which means when he looks back, he sees himself without it too. She pauses. And I think that's what he's afraid of. Jade looks at her for a long time. You just described a man being afraid of his own reflection. That's not about him anymore. Mara sits down at the table. Opens the notebook to the Lenox page. The circled address. The numbers she's known by memory for 8 months. I know, she says. I want both things. The building and him. The building and whoever he actually is underneath all of it. She looks at the numbers. I'm scared wanting both means losing one. Jade says. Or it means you build both at the same time. Mara closes the notebook. Goes to bed at 11:30. Real estate prep app open on her phone. 2 practice problems before her eyes blur. Alarm set for 6. Completely focused. Almost entirely not thinking about a man who watched a 6-story building in Harlem like it was a problem worth solving. Who took a phone call and went somewhere cold inside himself in 3 seconds. Who turned back and let her name what she saw without defending against it. She thinks he didn't defend against it. She thinks that's the part nobody prepares for. At midnight, the apartment is quiet and the whiteboard number glows faint red from the kitchen, and across the city in an office on Water Street a document has just been forwarded to Sung Ho's encrypted inbox that he has not opened yet, but will open in the morning, and the number on that document is the address on Lenox Avenue. His father has already signed the acquisition letter. The acquisition closed in 9 days. 9 days is fast. It is fast in a way that is not accidental. That requires work to have begun before the document landed on Sung Ho's desk, which means it was not a coincidence of timing or an administrative overlap. It was prepared, sent to him after the fact, as information, as a statement rather than a conversation. Chairman Kwan does not threaten. He removes options. He has spent 40 years understanding that the most durable form of control is not force but preemption, eliminating what someone needs before they understand they need it. He built an empire on this principle. He taught it to his son. He is now using it on his son's behalf, which is the specific cruelty of a man who believes he is protecting his family. Sung Ho reads the acquisition document on a Wednesday morning in his office with the door closed. The building on Lenox Avenue. 40 units. The property now belongs to a holding company his father controls. There is no mention of Mara Cole, no reference to the benefit or the block or 45 minutes on a Tuesday sidewalk. There doesn't need to be. The message is in the property, not the words. He sets the document down. He puts on his jacket. The drive to his father's Midtown office takes 11 minutes. He uses them to be very still, which is how he does his best thinking, and which Raymond has learned over 11 years means something is being decided rather than processed. The assistant says the chairman is in a meeting. Sung Ho sits in the reception chair, a thing he has never done before, has always walked through, and waits. This too is a decision. He is telling the room, and through it his father, something without saying it. 24 minutes later the door opens. His father is 64 and has the specific neutrality of effect that comes from a lifetime of having already considered every angle of whatever conversation is approaching. He gestures toward the chair. Sung-ho doesn't take it. The Lenox Avenue property, Sung-ho says. His father sets his pen down. The organization is always evaluating growing neighborhoods. Harlem has been on the acquisition list for 18 months. This property specifically has been on it for 9 days. A pause. His father's face remains flat. This is the expression Sung-ho has most respected and most resented about him. The absolute stillness under pressure. He learned it in this room. He is using it now, looking at the man who taught him. I protect this family, his father says. That has never changed. You acquired a building that a woman has been saving toward for 2 years. She has never been part of this organization, never asked anything of anyone in it. Her only connection to us is that I stood on a sidewalk and talked to her for 45 minutes about boiler systems. His voice does not rise. It goes to the register Raymond once described, after 10 years of working beside him, as the one that means the conversation is already settled. You didn't protect the family. You weaponized someone's dream to control my behavior. Those are different. His father is quiet. I'm going to correct this, Sung-ho says. I'm telling you so you know it's coming, not to ask permission. He leaves. In the elevator, he calls Ji-yeon. His sister is 34 and has been watching him carry things he didn't choose since she was 19. She answers before the second ring. He tells her in order what happened. She listens without interrupting, which is what he has always needed most from her. When he finishes, she says, "What do you need?" He says, "I need to undo something before she finds out it happened." Ji-yeon says, "I'll move faster than you." She does. The envelope arrives on a Friday morning under Mara's apartment door. She almost steps over it on her way out for her shift. Her name on the front, handwriting she doesn't recognize, no return address. She picks it up, opens it in the hallway in her socks. Inside, a 2-page legal document and a card clipped to the front with one sentence written by hand. "This belongs to you. It always was going to. Ji-yeon Kwon." Mara reads the document once. Reads it again. Reads it the third time with the deliberate attention she applies to exam practice problems. Looking for what she's misunderstanding. Looking for the catch. Reading the headers and the registered names and the property address and the transfer terms with the eyes of someone who has spent 19 months studying exactly these documents. She is not misunderstanding anything. The building on Lenox Avenue. 40 units. Transferred from a holding company she doesn't recognize to a registered LLC. The LLC's listed owner is Mara Cole. She goes back inside, sits at the kitchen table, sets the document and the card in front of her, and looks at both of them for a long time. Jade is still asleep. The apartment holds the specific quiet of a Saturday morning. Distant traffic, someone's music 2 floors up, the refrigerator cycling in the kitchen. The whiteboard on the refrigerator shows month 19 in red marker. 2 months ahead of her target. 5 months from the deposit she's been saving toward. She was 5 months away. She sits with the document for 37 minutes. She thinks about the circled address in her notebook. The 2 years of watching the neighborhood. The 22 months of every other Friday transfers into a savings account she doesn't touch. The study groups and the Saturday research trips, and the way her father sat on the stoop of a building that would never belong to him and read his newspaper anyway, because a man has to be somewhere. She wanted to earn it. She folds the document back into the envelope, places the card on top, picks up her bag and her keys, and goes to work. She works the full shift, manages her tables, recommends the lamb to a couple near the window who take her advice and order it, and spend the rest of the meal looking at each other the way people look at each other when a meal has gone well. She closes her section at 10:15. Changes. Takes the subway. She gets off 4 stops early and walks the rest. The city at 10:40 on a Saturday is doing what it always does. Occupied in its loud places, quiet in its late ones. She walks until she is standing outside a building on the Upper West Side whose address she knows, because Raymond Cho mentioned it once in passing 5 weeks ago, and she has the kind of memory that files addresses automatically, a habit built from 2 years of tracking properties. She rings the buzzer, states her name into the intercom. A pause. The door opens. She takes the elevator to the 14th floor. She is not afraid, and she is not soft, and she is not going to perform either of those things for what is about to happen. She is Mara Cole, and she is 26 years old, and she came to New York with a plan and 22 months of work, and she is not going to let anyone, regardless of what they cost themselves to do it, take the earning of it from her. The elevator opens. He is standing in the hallway, like he already knew she'd come, which he did. Like he was ready for whatever she's carrying, which he isn't, not entirely, but he is standing there anyway. She holds out the envelope. He looks at the envelope in her hand. He doesn't take it. You need to take it back, she says. The whole thing. It's yours. That's not how I want it to be mine. The hallway is quiet. Somewhere in the building something runs through the pipes. He looks at her with the same expression he used on the sidewalk in Harlem when she named the cost on his face. Not defended, not closed, and she recognizes it and doesn't soften because of it. I have been saving for 22 months, she says. I have been watching that neighborhood for 2 years. I have 3 notebooks full of comparables and cap rates and tenant turnover data and maintenance histories. I know that building the way I know my own face in the mirror. Her voice doesn't rise. It does what it always does, carries weight at the same register. I wanted to walk into a room and buy it with my own money and put my name on it because I earned it, not because someone corrected their father's mistake. He had no right. I know he had no right. She cuts across it cleanly. That's between you and him. My building shouldn't be the place where that gets settled. He is quiet for long enough that the hallway seems to lengthen. You're right, he says finally. She blinks. She had prepared for several versions of this conversation. This version was not the first one. I did it to undo damage, he says. I told myself I was correcting something. What I was actually doing was solving a problem in a language I know, acquisition, transfer, documentation, because those are the tools I have. And I applied them to something that didn't ask to be solved that way. A pause. You're right. That was mine to manage differently. She looks at him. He meets it. Doesn't adjust. What are you afraid of, she says. It comes out softer than she intended. Not a question exactly. More like an opening. He is quiet for a long time. Long enough that she almost feels it herself. He doesn't let her. I'm afraid, he says, that I have spent my entire life making people adjust around me, and I don't know how to be with someone who doesn't. I'm afraid that whatever I actually am underneath all of it, underneath the room changing and the phone calls and the organization and everything I inherited and everything I built on top of what I inherited, I'm afraid that when someone who sees clearly looks at it, there won't be enough there to be worth what they're building. He pauses. You see clearly. That's not a small thing to be afraid of. The hallway is very quiet. Mara looks at him the way she looked at the building on Lenox Avenue, not at what it is now, at what it can hold. I've seen what you actually are, she says. You stood on a sidewalk in Harlem on a Tuesday because you couldn't stop thinking about a building I'd been tracking for 8 months. You sat in a hallway outside your father's meeting for 24 minutes because you decided to correct something before you asked permission. You called your sister instead of going there yourself. She tilts her head slightly. Underneath all of it, you're a person who keeps showing up. Quietly. Without announcing it. That's not nothing. That's actually most of it. He looks at her. But I'm still giving you back the deed, she says. Something moves at the corner of his mouth. Not quite a smile. Something that has been building since a benefit on a Tuesday night when she crossed a ballroom and didn't adjust. I know, he says. And I'm still going to buy it myself. I know that too. And you should find out, she says, who you are when the room isn't rearranging itself around you. Because I'm not going to do that. I don't know how to. I'm counting on that, he says. She hands him the envelope. He takes it. She goes home. She gets on the subway and she rides it north, and at 125th Street a man gives up his seat for an elderly woman, and Mara watches it happen and thinks about all the small invisible things that people do in rooms where nobody is rearranging themselves for anyone. She is not sure she has ever been more certain of anything. 7 months later, Wells and Company closes its first lease. The building is not on Lenox Avenue. That building sold to a developer while the deed sat in an envelope on the 14th floor of an Upper West Side apartment building for 72 hours. And when Mara came back to the market 5 months later with her savings intact, and her deposit ready, and her notebooks full of 27 months of research, she found something better 3 blocks north. 43 units. Similar bones. A management failure so specific and correctable that she drafted the transition plan before she signed the purchase agreement. The office is in Harlem. It fits 3 desks if nobody reclines, for people if they all agree to keep their elbows in. There is a whiteboard on the wall, not the one from Washington Heights, a new one, bigger, covered in unit numbers and tenant names and maintenance schedules, and the particular organized density of someone who has always known exactly what she's building. On a Wednesday evening in November, she is locking up when her phone buzzes. Coming by. Brought food. Don't argue. She doesn't argue. He arrives 12 minutes later with containers from the Thai place 2 blocks from his building. Not the kind of Thai place that gets press, the kind that has been on the same corner for 19 years and stays full because the food is what it is. He sets the containers on the desk that is currently the largest flat surface in the office, and she clears a space for them by stacking the Lennox comparables she's been holding on to. Habit, the way you hold on to a version of something that almost was. They eat standing up because the chairs are still in the car from a showing she did this afternoon. He asks about the 3rd-floor plumbing issue she's been managing. She tells him the status. Contractor confirmed the source. Repair scheduled for next week. 2 affected tenants updated and given a credit. He nods. He asks a follow-up question that is specific and useful, and she answers it, and then asks him something about a restructuring his sister Jiyeon mentioned when she came for dinner last Sunday, and he tells her where it stands. This is what they do now. He is learning, slowly, with the visible effort of someone rebuilding an unfamiliar muscle, how to be in a life where he is not running everything. He shows up on Wednesday evenings and sometimes Saturdays, and he carries food and asks useful questions and does not attempt to solve things she hasn't asked him to solve. She tells him when he's doing the last one, which is approximately once a week, and he takes it without defending himself, which is something that cost him considerably at first and costs him less now. What are you thinking, he says. He is looking at her the way he has looked at her since a ballroom on a Tuesday night. Like something has been located that he spent a long time not knowing he was missing. She is thinking about her father on the stoop of a building that was never his. She is thinking about a notebook with a circled address she'll never buy. She is thinking about a hallway on the Upper West Side and a deed handed back, and what she said, and what he said, and the 7 months between that evening and this one, which have been the most clarifying 7 months of her life. She pulls the notebook out of her bag. The original one, battered now, the cover soft from 19 months of apron pockets and bag compartments and desk drawers. She flips to the last page. The final entry is not a property address. It is not a cap rate or a vacancy figure or a comparable sale. It is 4 words, written the morning after the hallway conversation, before she went to bed, and before she set her alarm, and before she put the comparables away. He showed up. So did I? She shows him the page. He reads it again. He sets the notebook down with the same precision he uses for everything he handles carefully. Then he closes the distance between the desk and the window where she's standing, and he takes her hand and holds it the way a person holds something they are not performing gratitude about, just feeling it. Outside the office, Harlem does what it always does. Occupied in particular and entirely indifferent to the 2 people standing in a room that fits 4 desks if nobody reclines. Inside the room, something has been built. Not loudly, without announcement. In the specific way that things built by people who know what they're doing get built, one honest thing at a time, until one day you look up and it's standing. If Sung-ho and Mara's story broke something open in you, the 10 women, the sidewalk, the envelope, the hallway, or those 4 words on the last page, hit that like button and subscribe right now. Drop a comment telling me your moment. Was it when she handed back the deed? When he said what he was afraid of? Or when she said he showed up? So did I? And vote below. Do we follow Jiyeon's story next? The sister who moved faster than her brother and has been watching him carry the wrong life for 15 years? Or do we go back for Celeste, the woman who left with her spine straight and the most accurate thing anyone said all night? You decide. See you in the next one.